Governments don't collapse when they run out of money. They collapse when they can't refinance their debt. Because modern governments don't pay debt off. They roll it over. Old debt expires. New debt replaces it. As long as refinancing is easy, the system looks stable. But when refinancing becomes expensive or uncertain, everything changes. This video explains what actually happens when governments can't refinance easily. Not in theory, in practice. How government debt really works. Most people think government debt works like household debt. That's wrong. Households borrow with the goal of paying debt down. Governments borrow with the goal of keeping debt serviceable. When a government bond matures, it isn't repaid with saved money. It's replaced with a new bond. That replacement is refinancing. For decades, refinancing was painless. Interest rates were low. Demand for government bonds was strong. Debt rollover felt automatic. As long as markets believed refinancing would always work, debt levels mattered less than interest costs. Not because debt was small, but because debt was cheap. When refinancing becomes the problem. Refinancing becomes visible when interest rates rise. Not immediately, but when large volumes of debt mature and must be replaced at much higher costs. A bond issued at 1% that must now be refinanced at 4 or 5% doesn't cause panic. It causes pressure. Interest expenses rise. Budget flexibility shrinks. Trade-offs become unavoidable. Governments don't announce this as a crisis. They absorb it quietly. The 4 choices governments always face. When refinancing becomes difficult, governments always turn to the same 4 options. There are no others. Option 1, raise taxes. Higher taxes increase revenue, but slow growth. Politically unpopular, economically limiting, often delayed until pressure is severe. Option 2, cut spending cuts. Reduce deficits, but weaken demand. Public services shrink, investment slows. This can stabilize budgets in the short term while making debt harder to service later. Option 3, inflate the debt away. Allow inflation to reduce the real value of debt. Quiet, indirect, historically common, but it raises living costs and erodes trust in money. Option 4, financial repression. Keep interest rates below inflation. Encourage, or require, savings to flow into government debt. This doesn't feel like default, but it functions like a hidden tax on savers. Every government uses some combination of these, not because they want to, because the math leaves no alternatives. Why markets react before voters? Markets respond before the public does. When governments refinance at higher costs, bond yields remain elevated risk, premiums rise, liquidity tightens, investors demand compensation for higher uncertainty. That pushes borrowing costs higher for corporations, banks, and households. This is how government refinancing pressure becomes economy-wide pressure, quietly. This is how government refinancing reaches your life, not through collapse, through persistence. Mortgage rates stay higher longer. Credit conditions don't loosen quickly. Rents rise as landlords refinance at higher costs. Wage growth slows as businesses protect margins. There's no single shock, just fewer options. And because nothing dramatic happens, most people underestimate what's occurring until flexibility disappears. This is the phase before crisis. The phase where systems still function, but margins shrink, choices narrow, adaptation replaces expansion. Governments don't fail here, they harden. And the decisions made in this phase shape everything that follows. That's why refinancing matters. Because by the time governments lose access to cheap debt, the outcome isn't decided in panic, it's decided by structure. In the next video, we go deeper. Because debt crises don't begin with panic, they begin quietly, with rising costs, delayed decisions, and an economy working harder to achieve less. That quiet phase is where most systems are lost.